Good afternoon, tribe. So happy to be here. Michelle Norris. And I am super excited about my guest that I'm going to have today. I've just recently gotten to know her, and she is absolutely a dream. I just love her. And so let me tell you a little bit about her. So Geeta Sidhu-Robb is a mother, author, inspirational speaker, CEO, and founder of Nosh Detox. Her frequent media appearances on print, radio, and national TV has given her a strong media profile as an expert on natural health and lifestyle solutions and women's conscious leadership. Geeta gave up her career as a corporate lawyer to set up her own business, Nosh Detox, in 2008 after her son's severe food allergies, eczema, asthma, anaphylaxis as a baby led her to retrain as a raw chef and functional nutritionist. Thank you so much for being here. She has like her bio is like a mile and a half long, but I figure you're going to get to know her through this.
Yeah, I wouldn't read all of it. That could take us a while.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, it's been a little bit crazy with everything that's been going on, and I'm so happy that you were coming on here. So Geeta lives in London, and so it's what, 5-6 o'clock for you right now?
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and so anyway, we were been chatting. We are in unicorn together, so we're unicorn sisters, and so we've all been talking and chatting and trying to keep each other up to date on what's happening around where we're at, and so it's been really great to have someone on the other side of the pond telling us what's happening over there and kind of keeping us abreast. So what's going on in your world, and how are you handling all of this, and what are you doing for your tribe, trying to help keep them positive and healthy, and what do you have going on right now?
Well, it's interesting on a personal basis. What's really interesting is that all my children are now home, and I'm kind of I know, like every working mother, I'm like, really? How are we going to manage that one? And then I'm like, no, that's really great, sweetie. And and you're just like, and I have an office in my house, like many people, and so it's a whole new meaning to working from home. And my kids are used to me working from home because I've always had an office in the house because, they were sick, but one of them was sick when he was younger. But that's so different to having teenagers. Like, can I have your card? Can I just, so B, you're going to lock me up in a room or in a home with all of my kids. I'm just like, I ordered a really big TV, which my children think is hysterical because I'm just not a TV watcher. And so I ordered a big, fast, shiny, smart TV that does things that I have no idea what it does. But I've ordered that. That's where we've got to. In terms of business, I mean, I have a lot of kids. So in terms of business, it's been really interesting because we haven't quite understood that we're locked down in that way in Britain. Right. And I think we're doing, Britain in the Blitz. And we had the Prime Minister's father saying he was going to the pub yesterday. And so there's a joke going around that the Prime Minister asked everyone not to go to the pub in the same tone somebody would say in America, please don't shoot your neighbors. I mean, if you don't mind, kind of thing. It's our constitutional right to go to the pub. So that's been interesting. So we're, and what's very interesting is the way that we live, because I live in London, which is the capital of it's like living in Manhattan or somewhere, like dead center. And so if you look out the window, everybody English has gone because they all have homes in the country. There is nobody English left here. It's foreigners. It's just us people. So people walking down the street as an Italian, I'm like, well, you can't go home. And then there's us guys. So it's, it's interesting. In terms of business, it's trying to get people to please, we are a detox business. And we help to detox emotionally and physically. And we're like, please do a cleanse, because doing a cleanse is a fantastic way of boosting your immunity. But don't do 5 days of it. Do 1 day every week. It's a really interesting place to be.
I can imagine. Oh my word. So, so tell me. Okay, so this is the thing. Geeta has a really interesting whole story back behind, and I mean, it's it's like the phoenix. Like you have like totally risen out of the ashes. And my big thing is finding beauty in the ashes and everything. And so, tell us, like, your world like kind of came to an end. So tell us what that was like for you and what you did.
I mean, it's interesting because it is so far away, and it's still so it makes you kind of pause for a second. I grew up very, very comfortably, extremely well off, really. And then I trained as a lawyer. I became a lawyer, and then I kind of had one bad marriage, but it was okay. I then married, and my son was ill. We got him better, married again, had 2 more children. We had this incredible lifestyle because we set up a business that was deeply successful. And I had in those days, an £8 million house. So, I mean, I think, gosh, like if I think about it now, I mean, that's probably, I think it's like worth 15, 20 million with a huge private pool. And this is London. I mean, all our houses are like this. It's not America where you have, big houses and things. And, it was a very bad marriage, and it went from and it was violent, and it was terrible, and it was really bad. And I was just like, I can't take this anymore. So after a few years, when the youngest was a year, she must have been, I remember that the elder one had chickenpox, which is, what you need. Yeah. And the youngest was still in nappies. And I remember just walking out of my house going, I'm never coming back. And I remember this because I was still clutching a baby and some nappies. And it went like that. My ex, who I was a corporate lawyer, so I had taught him how to hide his money, because what we did was tax deals. So that there's karma for you. Yeah. He emptied every single bank account while I was trying to work out what to do with the kids, kind of thing, because I just couldn't stand it one more minute. And if you've ever been in a kind of an abusive relationship, there comes a moment where you're like, done, it's it, I've finished. And I picked up and I walked out with the 3 children. And he acted really fast, and it took him 3.5 days to empty. Well, it took him 2 minutes to empty every single bank account. He bankrupted me. He took everything away, and we had built it together, so I kind of left trusting. I'm like, he'll give me half and we'll do, and it just clearly, I mean, I sometimes think I was stupid, and then I realized that trusting people isn't stupid. I was perhaps more naive.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, let's not do that one again.
Yeah.
And I had £200 in my pocket. And so you need to understand that what we were talking about was a lifestyle that was like in the 1% of the world. I had my own private plane, and I had like 8 cars, and 4 of them were Rolls Royces and a Ferrari, and I had a house in Monaco. And I went from there to having £200, 3 children under the age of 7, and absolutely nothing else. So my mother did not want to help, because she was very unhappy about me leaving, because you're Indian, you don't leave your husband. You don't leave your rich husband, I think was the actual point. So my mother was like, you're just stupid. Other people take the money with them, and you leave with no money. You're an idiot. I was like, so I had £200, and I rang up. My neighbors put me up for 2 nights, but 3 kids, and then a girlfriend gave me a bedroom, and I slept on the floor, and the children slept in the bed. And we did that for 6-8 months. And I had 2 pairs of shoes and I had 3 outfits. And I wore 2 pairs of shoes and 3 outfits for 6 months. And that's just what I had, because I had no money, and I was trying to work out how to eat. And it's that thing that this reminds me of, that where we are today, because your life is doing this. I mean, it has, but you understand the structure of your life, and we really, really occupy that space. And you go from there to life is never the same as you know, and it just is really interesting to do that. So I was there, because I was bankrupt, I couldn't work as an attorney, because, there's not much call for bankrupt corporate attorneys. And I had no family. And when you are very rich, you have a lot of friends. And when you suddenly become poor, you have none.
Yeah.
And the friends that I did, after a while, I was too embarrassed to reach out, because I was scared, because I was like, I'll get turned down. And I felt bad and guilty. And it was a really interesting place to be. You literally, you get tunneled Everything drills down to what is right in front of you, and you can't see anything else. And that's what life becomes.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So how did you keep yourself in high vibration? Because the only way for you to have pulled yourself out of this and for you to get back to where you are now, which, you know, your business is
Rocks.
yeah. How did you keep yourself in that high vibration so that you could get yourself out of that?
So what I did was that I was very lucky. But I tell you, it was so bad. I was losing everything. I mean, I dropped off the face of the earth. I had no credit rating. I had my bank accounts were frozen because I was bankrupt. I had £200 in cash. I had no credit because I had no home. I had nothing. It's a really interesting place to be, especially when you've always been like a good girl, you know, and kind of done what you're meant to do. I was like, the thing with, well, you know, I mean, I was kind of like,
your sarcasm through all of this. I'm just like, I can only imagine just knowing you now, how you just like kind of joked your way through a lot of this and got there with some of the sarcasm that you use, because I just love the way that you just approach everything in your perspective. It's so fascinating and so interesting to me.
It's really important because, like, I remember girlfriends who would say things like, oh, well, you know, I would have you in my home, but like, I don't want you near my husband. And, you know, because you've got this prize of a husband. I'm like, have you looked at him lately? Nobody wants him. Me neither. You know, they'd be there going, I'm broke. I'm poor. I have nowhere to live. And you're worried I'm going to lift your husband off you. Take another look and we'll talk. You know, so you had to keep a sense of humor because people just you start to become allergic, you know, when people are in this place. It's almost like you're giving off like skunk vibes because poverty is not contagious. I would just like to explain, poverty is not contagious. It is just anyway. So yeah, I have been poor and I've been rich, and I infinitely prefer rich. So there is that. What I did was, I remember that you have to be very focused on knowing what you can and cannot do. I realized that I realized a few things. I realized, number one, that I never wanted this to happen to me again. Number one. Number two, I realized that I was so lucky. My ex-husband, I was sleeping on the floor, and my children's school said, you know, you have to give us the money or they have to leave. And my ex was like, well, you could always come back. If I think about it, I might have you back. And I thought, I'm not sure Americans swear as much as we do, but I can't tell you what I thought. But thank God he did that, because I thought, sod off, you stupid bastard. And it really solidified that I was going to do this myself. And my one thing to myself was, my children are never going to leave this horrendously expensive school that they're in. I've changed everything about them. And I realized that to somebody else that feels like superficial why, but it was about not feeling the guilt of being a bad mother. That if I could at least keep them with their friends, they had lost their houses, they had lost everything that they had done, but they wouldn't lose their friends and their school and their environment. Yeah. So that was where that came from. And so I just, you know, I remember buying a book, which cost me £1 of my sort of 47 pounds I had left. And I remember opening the book and drawing a line down the middle of it and going, right, I know there's a God out there. And I know that there is somebody out there that is bigger than me, because I grew up religious and I have a firm belief in that. And I drew a line, and on the right-hand side at the top, I wrote what the universe has to do for me. And then on the left-hand side, I wrote what I have to do. And on the right, and the list on the right-hand side was very long in the beginning. It was things like money for food, money for shoes, money for transport, money to you know, a new house. I was like, I put a bed down, damn it. I'll settle just for a bed at this stage, because I hadn't slept in a bed for so long. And then on the left-hand side, it was look for work, ring up people, ask for help, because I did not know how to do that, because I'm like, you know, it's just not. And so once I had that,
we don't do that as women anyway. We barely ever ask for help, and then we're always the ones that are doing everything. So yeah, I could totally see that.
And my job was to look after everyone else, right? You know how that is. There was nobody's job to look. I mean, it was so bad that at times I remember that I would count the children. I literally would count them in the morning, out in the morning, and I'd count them back in at night because I had lost so much every day that I wanted to make sure I still had the kids. So I started with writing that down and then thinking, here's what I can do nothing about. God, universe, over to you. Here's what I can do something about. The stuff I could do something about, I did, and the others I couldn't. The other thing that I did was that I would, I couldn't meditate because I was in this space. There was nowhere to meditate. So I invented walking meditation. I mean, I have no idea. It became a thing apparently, but I didn't know what it was. And I used to walk for like an hour, 2 hours every evening. When the children were asleep, I would be like, my friend was there because it was her home, poor woman. I mean, her husband would come home every night and like, why are you still here? And I'd be like, just pretend I'm not here. And he's like, I'm trying. So super uncomfortable. And I would do walking meditations. And in the meditations, I would walk past shops and shops, and I couldn't afford anything in any shop. I couldn't afford anything. And I would not see what was in the shops because I trained myself to not see those things. And that all I would do is think as I walked, here's where I'm going. Here's what I'm doing. Here's where I'm going. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what's going to happen tomorrow. Here's what we're going to do. God, I need this. Universe, do this. Where's the flow? Where's the flow? And it was so interesting. I absolutely refused to accept the reality of pain and suffering and poverty. Yeah. And the only way I could do that was to make it funny. I used to say things like, I miss my private plane, like where you have those little things, and I made those cushions with my logo on it. Yeah, and I'd be just thinking, like, I don't have £5 to buy a pair of shoes. I wore the same pair of shoes for 6 months, and I would remember because the dichotomy, but and it would keep my sense of humor going. I mean, it sounds insane when you think about it, but I had to have something. So, and I threw myself into learning about energy, about vibration, and I learned something amazing, which I'd like to share if I can.
Absolutely, please.
So I learned something phenomenal. This is how I see it. I learned that I have an antenna that goes out of the top of my head. And this antenna is like those old TV antennas, the ones that get the signal. And there were layers. And that they were layers that went off the top of my head. And the first layer was like anger. And the second layer was like, shame. And the other layer was guilt. And there were all these negative layers. And then on the top, there were all these positive layers of love, happiness, joy, friendly, money, and all that stuff going up. And what I did was I realized that I tuned myself into whichever vibration I wanted to be in. So if you wake up in the morning and you stub your toe on the way to the bathroom and you're like, oh my God, that bloody thing, and I'm always hurting my foot. And the universe is like, oh, you're really unhappy. Okay, I love you. Let me give you more unhappy. I will let you download as much unhappy as you want because you're on that phase of the antenna. You're in that radio frequency. So you walk out of the house with your skirt tucked into your knickers, and the sky that you think is utterly beautiful drives past and sees you there. And you're like, oh my God, because, life just hates you, right? And then,
but this is what I'm getting from you is this is actually what you're choosing, because what you're focusing on. So you're getting more of what you're focusing on.
But what I didn't realize was that if my best friend rang me up to tell me about her abysmal bad date, and we were crying with laughter by the end of it, then somebody went, oh, your knickers are in your dress. And you're like, oh, thank you. And you pull them out before you got onto the bus that turned up. And then your boss said, I'm out for the whole day. Do you want a pay rise? I found that emotional change would change where I was in my frequency. Now, I kind of knew this because I would read Abraham Hicks, but it didn't make as much sense to me until I started to live it. Mm-hmm. And that was what made the difference, that I understood that the universe was very neutral. It would give me more of what I wanted.
Yes.
As long as I wanted it badly enough. And if I wanted shit, I was so getting shit. And that if I wanted joy, I was so getting joy. I just had to understand what emotion I wanted to plug into. So that was what I learned. And I learned that lesson like it was going out of fashion. And that's what I then started to do. I literally tuned my vibration to where I wanted it to be. And I stayed in that radio frequency as much as I could. And then I would outgrow a radio frequency and I would need to find another one, because you would kind of hit your limit and then you're like, okay, take that limit and throw it away and let's move upwards. And that's what I did.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. I mean, and I think when you talk about that, we can definitely circle this back to what's happening right now. There's just so many people that are in a place of fear and just so worried, and it's like palpable. Like, I know I went grocery shopping last week and it was so palpable in the store, just the fear and the stress and the worry, and that's something that we can control. That we can control 100%. That all we can control. So that's the place to kind of start, is just controlling what's going on right here.
Yes. Because the thing is, and then people say to me, but you can't control coronavirus. And I'm like, no, but I can control how I react to it. Right. And I can control how I feel about what my environment is doing. And my emotions and my feelings, this is the really important thing, control whether I feel powerful or powerless.
Yes.
And one of those boosts your immunity and one of them kills your immunity.
Amen. Amen. I totally agree with you, because I'm like, that's the one thing that I have just through all of this, just really maintained a good sense of humor, been kind of laughing. I mean, not that I'm not taking it seriously, or that I feel awful for those that are suffering through this, or people who've lost loved ones through coronavirus, taking that very seriously. But the rest of it is, at this point in time, I can't control any of that. Right. So
exactly.
In order to keep my wits about me, I need to control my vibration is high, that it's positive, that I'm trying to connect that to as many people as possible. That's the other thing too, is, and I'm sure that you did this because I know you're like a magnet. I know the first time I met you, it was like, oh, I have to know her more because she is so funny. And just, I mean, like, you're drawn to that. And so that's one of the things too, is that if you're kind of in that magnet, for you actually proliferate that, and you can actually help bring everybody else's energy and vibration and frequency up. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think, yeah. And I think, then thank you, because I loved you too. So I'm deeply happy that you felt like that. I think that it's really important to understand that feeling good should not make you feel guilty, because you feeling bad does not improve anything except make you a drain on your country's hospital resources and everything else. Because if you get sick, you can't help anybody. Whereas if you get to the stage where you feel strong and inspirational and powerful and funny, the thing is, like in my business, in Nosh Detox, we deliver home food, detox food and juices and whatever. But we work, in my coaching, I work with people who are dying of cancer all the time. All the time. And what it has been really interesting to teach me is that when you get to the illness, the biggest issue with a rabid illness that is about to take your life and you're looking at it in the face is that your anger and your resentment fuel your speed to your illness.
Right.
Whereas your love and your joy and your happiness speed your wellness. So it is really, really important for you to you have a responsibility, in my opinion, to stay as funny and as happy and as passionate as you can possibly be, because that is the only way you can currently serve humanity. Oh. And I know that we all want to do that.
Preach that, sister. I totally agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think that that's kind of like our responsibility right now, especially for those that are actually have family members that are sick and everything. That's one of the best ways you can help them bring up their immunity and help them get healthy, is to try to stay really super positive.
Totally.
Yeah. Well,
my mother, sorry, carry on.
No, you go ahead.
My mother, who's 86, and is extremely well and does IV drips and all my products. She does juice fasts and weightlifting and everything. And so I said to my mother, look, I don't want to like come and visit because all the children have just come back from schools. Let them give me a week, you know, and then I'll come and we'll be able to hang out with you. So my mother wrote me a message today and she goes, you know what? I think I should start my own show. I'm like, why? She goes, to help the elderly.
I love it. Oh my God. I think, you know what, Geeta, we need to have you and your mom get on here. We can have your mom on. That would be awesome.
And then she found Instagram, which she has been doing because she's now locked up at home. So my mother has now found my Instagram account. And I'm just like, no, mommy, no. Now I know it's karma. It's punishment for when I comment on my children's Instagram.
That's awesome. Oh my God. That's wonderful. That is so cool. I'm like that. That just makes me so happy.
Yeah, it makes my mother pretty happy too. I'm going to give her your Instagram and then she can bother you, not me.
Okay. Yeah, and I definitely want to follow her. Oh my word, that's so funny. I don't know. I'm just like that. The one thing I was going to say just a little while ago is, you know, when you are in just this really great high vibration, positive place, it like this is like, it just it's more contagious than the virus if you do it this way.
Oh, that's such a fantastic thing to say, Michelle. It is such a fantastic thing to say. And that's so true because it is 100% right. Yeah. Because and I mean, and you know this because you lead this incredible tribe of people that are so interested in health and fitness and that's your special kind of superpower. But it is absolutely true that the more light you bring anywhere you go, the higher vibration always converts on a spiritual level, the lower vibration. Energy always lifts energy, not drops it. So when you are in a place like this, it is your responsibility. It is your job. Your service is to stay in your highest, funniest, lightest vibration because it lifts so much vibration. And it's like the square root of something. I mean, I'm so not a mathematician. Despite being Indian, I was like, I chose the words one, but there was just that thing that one tiny bit of light will square root its effect to darkness.
I totally, completely, 100% agree with you. That I think definitely right now we all need to be as much light and much air and much, you know, happiness and just positivity as we possibly can be. For sure.
And that's health as well, right? Because you carry your light by being as healthy as you can. You cannot have, in this day and age where we are, you cannot have a high vibration on a bad diet. You cannot. In the old days, you could do that. So you would have people that were quite evolved and they were really ill and they were, you know, ate badly. In this day and age, you cannot. It burns it up. It lowers your vibration. So you want to stay in as high a vibration by staying as clean as you possibly can. And that is clean eating, whatever that means for you. And what's your diet is not my diet, right? We all eat so differently. Mm-hmm. But it is clean eating. It's clean. And you know, just the odd martini.
Yeah. I completely agree with you there too. Just every once in a while. Every once in a while, you got to do that. You got to blow it out.
Absolutely. I mean, the odd martini, margarita. I'm not fussy. You know, take a pick.
Yeah, I'm a margarita kind of person.
Yeah, me too. But I like them both. It depends on where we are.
Yeah, totally depends. Anyway, thank you so much for coming here today. It was such a joy to get a chance to spend a little time with you. I've been missing you.
Yes, I miss you too.
We had such a great time in Maui and it was pouring down rain and cold, which in Maui, we were like, wait, what?
Yeah. And everybody's like, oh, you went to Hawaii. I'm like, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. It was
so like, wait a minute. I just left I left that weather in London. It was not supposed to follow, but we had such a great time anyway, even though it was cold and it was rainy.
We laughed so much.
Yeah, it was so much fun. So anyway, so I miss you and I thank you so much for coming on. And we're going to have a lot of Geeta's information, her company, Nosh Detox, especially if you're over in London. And in that area, you definitely want to check them out. They do really great work. And anyway, and I can just vouch for the fact that she's amazing. So I know all of her coaches are. So
Thank
Anyway,
you, sweetie. It's wonderful to work with you and talk to you again.
yes. Alrighty. You guys have a great day. Everybody stay positive and happy. And thank you so much for coming on, Geeta. I appreciate it. Love you.
Oh, such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.